The NBA is the most popular league in the world, watched and followed by millions of fans in the United States as well as outside the United States. While pandemic shut down the world, the NBA created a bubble that became a platform to fight social injustice. Well, for the first time in years, the NBA shut down on March 11th, 2020, following Rudy Gobert test positive for the coronavirus. The NBA used this hiatus to determine next steps for moving forward regarding the coronavirus pandemic and how to help players fight social injustice.
We all talked shortly after we shut down the season. And of course, we've always been looking for whether or not there is an appropriate and safe way in which we can resume basketball.
The NBA resumed during the COVID-19 pandemic and in the wake of the social injustice protests following the death of George Floyd and Breonna Taylor. Players wore messages of equality and demands of justice for Black Lives Matter. Well, on August 26, 2021, the Milwaukee Bucks shocked millions of fans when they chose not to take the court for their scheduled playoff game in protest of the shooting of Jacob Blake. Blake was left paralyzed after being shot in the back multiple times by Kenosha police officer Rustin Shaniski on August 31, 2020. The NBA stood by their players and supported their decision they made.
We're completely committed to standing for social justice and racial equality, and that's been the case going back decades. It's part of the DNA of this league. How it gets manifested is something we're going to have to sit down with the players and discuss for next season. I would say in terms of the messages you see on our court, on the jerseys, this was an extraordinary moment in time when we began the discussions with the players and what we all lived through this summer. In response, players held a meeting in the NBA bubble to discuss how they proceed. Although the NBA was not alone, WNBA teams decided not to partake in any games. The message was the power of the vote and the importance of taking action. Again, the league will be shut down.
I urge all citizens to educate themselves and remember to vote on November 3rd.
A call to action.
There's so many things that we need to change. For me, if there was one, it's voting.
In order to resume the season, players wanted their teams to take action.
3 Game 5 postponements later, the players returned. They ultimately decided the only way to bring change is to shine a light on the racial injustices that are happening every day.
It's imperative that we focus on what's really important in the world, and Breonna Taylor killers still roam around free.
Breonna Taylor, justice for Breonna Taylor.
The same energy that we have on the floor is the same energy that we have towards having justice for Breonna Taylor.
The NBA had to do more, and that is what they did.
There'll be somewhat a return to normalcy, that those messages will largely be left to be delivered off the floor. And I understand those people who are saying, I'm on your side, but I want to watch a basketball game.
And help provide additional voting access, resulting in 21 NBA owners agreeing to work with election officials to convert their arenas and practice facilities into polling places for the 2020 election.
The reason that it's important is because it's fixing a need. Around the nation, you can see more and more polling locations closing. There's some places that have one polling location. How?
To sit with a call with our owners and for them to hear how important some of these initiatives are.
Players shined a light so bright that the NBA turned multiple arenas into voter stations. With a successful, completed first ever NBA bubble focused on social injustice, the message has not stopped. The people want justice. Black lives matter.
I hope that people continue to
use their platform, use their individual social media platforms, or they're doing it that way. If you're an individual that goes into your community and does it that way. However, that you continue to create change for the better of all of us. I think it only makes us all better.